come back to it, like we were saying, it is good to sort of separate work and social. Like I've always sort of done that in general. Like I used to actually organise a payday pub trip with work, and on the invite to people was literally no speaking about work, because
It's so
we've all
important.
just done we've all just done a full week at work. But why do we want to carry on that outside of our day jobs?
Yeah.
Let's go and have a fun and chat about rubbish, chat about the footy, whatever.
Oh, sensitive subject, isn't it?
Yeah, let's not talk about the football. Yeah, I mean, there's still a second leg, but this will actually be out after that's happened. Yeah.
We'll have to do a little edit at the end.
Yeah, I might have to cut this section out. But yeah, so we were obviously talking about the mental effects of your work, and there's obviously the positives and negatives, and clearly the positives far outweigh your negatives, because otherwise you wouldn't still be doing it.
No.
Like,
couldn't still be doing it. It is.
No.
Yeah.
It wouldn't make sense.
It's not the most perfect job in the world, and I have bad days. Like everybody has bad days. But I can honestly say I have more good days than I have bad days. And even things like our crewmates, you're spending 12 hours with somebody. I am finding out more about this person than a lot of people probably find out in a year of being in an office with somebody. Like, I'm building the most amazing relationships with my colleagues, and, you know...
You have to, though, don't you, really, in those situations? If you're not working as a team, then things are probably going to go south pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And I imagine spending 12 hours a day on shift with someone, quite often, I imagine you're driving around between jobs. It's a lot of time spent sort of in an intimate sort of environment.
It's literally just you and them in the front of a cab, and then trying to figuring out how people work to give the best to the patients. You know, it's all so important, and learning more about the people you're working with, it's easier to find that out and give that best treatment to the patients.
So, this is the next topic then. You're actually on about leaving the ambulance service, aren't you, and moving towards the fire service?
Potentially, yes.
Potentially. Because, well, for those who don't know, Steph was one of my one-to-one clients and is now sort of on a workout-only basis.
I love how I sort of there.
What?
Sort of.
Well, yeah, when you decide to go
when I decide to turn up to the gym, yeah.
Yeah, or apply or anything like that. But moving away from that, we won't get into that. But yeah, the aim was for us to get Steph fit and ready for the fire services sort of fitness test.
Yeah.
Which is coming up in a couple of months, if I remember rightly.
Yes, March, April time. Well, I think it's about April sort of time, yeah.
So what is your reasoning behind potentially moving away from the ambulance service to the fire service, especially with all that you've just said about how much you enjoy it and how good it is for your mental health?
Yeah.
Is it just you want to change it up and have a new challenge? Or...
Partly, yeah. So I've applied for a different role within the ambulance service.
So what would that be?
To train to be a paramedic. So I'm not a paramedic yet. So it would be to train through another company to get my paramedics, which ultimately is my end goal, to get that.
So does that mean at the moment the calls that you turn up to are not sort of resuscitations, or would your sort of partner do that?
Yeah.
Oh, right. So you still do it, but you're not necessarily got the training for it.
So we have the training for that sort of thing, and often they'll just send another crew that's got a para if you need a paramedic on scene. And quite often we obviously go to the calls, and if we get there and go, actually, do you know what? This is bigger than what I can do. We'll just estimate it, get paramedics, get senior paras out there to come and assist, and that's across the whole. So
you want to be on more sort of a life-saving emergency services instead of maybe, like you say, it could be as simple as like picking someone up or helping.
Yeah.
I think you said like you literally help like people up the stairs that can't sort of move around the house. And
yeah, so ordinarily like our calls I attend tend to be the more the less serious calls to the lower category calls.
Right.
But obviously,
What does that sort of entail?
so normally people who have fallen, injured, can't get up. What else do I attend? Your GPs who are admitting people into hospital, those sorts of calls. But often the problem with those calls is because they're lower category, they take, your time response is bigger, so you can take longer to get to them. So those calls have been waiting a lot longer than ordinarily with the pressures on the service at the minute. They've been waiting a lot longer than ordinarily we would like. So those patients are obviously getting sicker and sicker and sicker. So those patients quite often are very poorly. So we still take them in, whatever. But obviously your paramedics are going to your major traumas normally there. But if I'm the closest vehicle, and let's say there's a cardiac arrest, God forbid, and that's what we're being sent to, we'll be diverted to go to that. There's nothing stopping us being sent.
Right.
So we just tend to have to wait for a paramedic to do their side of it, but we can at least start and try and get part of it done.
So the end goal is to be a paramedic. What is the reasoning for sort of wanting to be on those higher risk sort of calls? Like, do you not think that may give you a sort of increased stress and maybe take some of the happiness away from the day job? Or what is it? What is the reasoning behind you moving towards those higher risk calls?
Obviously.
Or higher priority?
So obviously I genuinely love learning. I'm not even afraid to say it. I'm an absolute nerd. I love learning new things and learning so much more and developing my skill set and being able to turn up to a patient and go, I know what you need. This is how we're going to do it. Whereas even if I know now, there's nothing to, if it's beyond my scope of practice, I can't do it.
Yeah.
So I think when you get your
gotta have that confidence on you.
Yeah, get your paramedics. Obviously, don't get me wrong, still sometimes they go, do you know what, we need to escalate it to, I don't know, get doctors involved and all sorts of get hems over. But I want to be able to turn up to an incident and go, I know what you need, I can give it to you. And just learning and developing myself to be the best possible practitioner I could be. Yeah.
So, I mean, it's a good place to be in those situations. You want to know what you're doing and have some sort of practice to back that up. So what is the reasoning for sort of taking, I guess it's almost like a sideways step to be in the fire service?
To be in the fire service. So
is that again just you wanting to learn and be a nerd and sort of gain more knowledge? Or
yeah, so I think the fire service, I work quite closely with a lot of firefighters as well. They do a lot of medical, obviously they're quite often first on scene and all of that side of stuff. And I was speaking to one of them and their work-life balance seems to be a bit better than the ambulance service. Ours seem to be a bit better. And from a personal side of it, family related, you know, if I want kids, all of that side of stuff, I think that would be a better way to go. But then I'm toying, actually, I know I want to be a paramedic.
Yeah.
So it's toying between that at the minute. So I'm just keeping my options open and seeing where it takes me.
You said that hours are better.
That women are just as fit as men. I think that's with the fitness test.
Fair enough. So you say like the work-life balance potentially a bit better on the fire service. So is it not big 12-hour shifts?
They are 12-hour shifts, but they seem to be, it all depends what station you're at and what their rota system is. But for example, some of my colleagues, they'll do 2 12 hours and then 1 24-hour shift. So they have beds and stuff on station. And
I thought you meant like you're literally up from like 8 till 8 the next day and like you've got to be like
they are on call, obviously, the 24 hours, but they do have beds, so if they're not out on the road, they can sleep.
Right, just next to a big bell to wake them up in case they need to hop in the fire.
I was weirdly speaking to one of the fireys about this yesterday, and I was like, how do you wake? What if you oversleep? And they're like, there's no chance you're oversleeping through those alarms, like lights go on, sirens, bells. She was like, you're fine, don't worry. I was like, okay.
Fair enough.
Yeah. But the firey I was speaking to, he was saying, you know, he's not missed anything to do with the kids. You know, they've got sports day, he goes to the sports day, school plays, that sort of stuff. So it's just really keeping my options open and seeing which routes.
Planning ahead in case you have kids.
In case I have kids, yeah.
And you need to be there at sports day. So it's not necessarily the line of work, it's more the work-life balance side of things.
Yeah, and that would be more why I would be going down that route. And it's, at the minute, it is something I'm considering and thinking about, because I am taking that step to apply to get my paramedics. It's obviously back in the question, actually, this would be a good time to go down that route and see which is more suited for me. But the applications only come out like once a year, so you've got to kind of grab it.
Got to get you in the gym and get you fit then, haven't we?
Going tonight, don't worry.
Good. So bringing it back to the mental health side of things, you say you have the coping mechanism of sort of your friends and your family around you. Are there any sort of online tools that you use, any websites or phone numbers that you can call?
Obviously, there's your usual, if you are really struggling, the likes of Samaritan Minds, all of those kind of guys, and you can phone them and they'll give you a chat. From my point of view, I've always, it's not a secret to anyone that knows me, I've always struggled with my mental health, and particularly anxiety, and I have worked quite hard at trying to find my own coping mechanisms to kind of overcome it. And it's small things like pushing myself massively out of my comfort zone. And
because we used to have problems with you actually getting into the gym, didn't we, when we first started?
I would sit outside the gym for an hour. I've got it down to about 20 minutes this week, debating whether I go in because there's people in the gym. And that's something that, I mean, if you meet me normally, my friends have said I had no idea you struggled with your anxiety. I
genuinely wouldn't have, to be honest. When we've met as well, I wouldn't have thought you struggled, but obviously sometimes those things aren't always that visible.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing, friends, no matter how well you know somebody, it is an art being able to hide it, and I think a lot of people do hide it. So, I mean, we were speaking before about my friends saying, you know, are you all right? And I was like, yeah, I'm fine. And they said, no, are you actually okay? And that's so important. And
sometimes that second question is what you need to sort of get the answer out there and sort of just get it off your chest almost.
And even just be like, do you know what? No, I'm really struggling. I don't want to talk about it, but your friends are aware, so they can just check in and send you an extra text that day or a couple of days later, how are you feeling today? Anything, you know, I'm at the end of the phone, and it makes all the difference. So I've had to work on myself being open to my friends and saying, actually, do you know what? No, I am struggling, which takes quite a lot for me. I
can imagine it does for anyone sort of in that situation, because I think quite often people are almost too proud to not open up and sort of admit that they're in a sort of bad position.
And I think as well, wanting to protect your friends, your family, and
not wanting people to worry about you and things like that.
And if people are struggling with the mental health, you know, I know with me, I never wanted somebody else to feel awkward because I was struggling. And I can guarantee you now they don't feel awkward. They just want to be there for you. And that's so important.
You've got to use those support networks that you've got around you, like family, friends, and then if you're sort of maybe even too embarrassed or don't want to open up to closer people, then there are those sort of online tools that you can use. There's numbers that you can call and speak to someone completely sort of anonymously. I can't get my words out then. It's been a long week. Well, probably longer for you with your 12-hour shifts.
I know, it was off today, don't worry about it.
Thank you very much for watching part 2 of the podcast. If you'd like to see part 3, click right here. If you're new, subscribe. And if you enjoyed it, drop a like below. Thank you.